Greetings, friends. What is up, and welcome to another episode of Into the Necrosphere. This week, I am talking to a member of Gairia about their upcoming record, Mirage. We spoke all about the band's approach to songwriting, their approach to the live show, as well as digging deep into the whole philosophy behind some of the band's lyrics and songs. Great conversation. For those wondering, there is a very good reason I am referring to him as a member of Gairia as a condition for them coming on a podcast like this. They do tend to request a degree of anonymity, which of course I am cool with. Another thing that I am very cool with is the fact that Apocalyptic Witchcraft Records, great guys and a label that consistently releases very, very good stuff, has gifted us the privilege of getting to hear a single of the forthcoming Antichrist Imperium record. That record, of course, is entitled Volume 3, Satan in His Original Glory. It is due out on October the 7th, and I will post the pre-order link in the description of the podcast. I have, as I said, been given the opportunity to premiere the very first single off of the record, and as I have said many times, this is, in my view, one of the best records of 2022 without a shadow of a doubt. For those that don't know, it features Werewolf members Sam Bean and Matt Wilcock, and it features members of Voices and Acrococker, Sam Loynes and David Gray. In my opinion, and I know this is a very big shout, but I have had the pleasure of listening to this record many times now, I think it is a career best performance from all four men, and you are about to find out why as I unleash for the first time ever the new single, or the first single, of the forthcoming Antichrist Imperium record. This is Third Degree Baptism.
Now
That was Third Degree Baptism, the world premiere of the first single of the forthcoming Antichrist Imperium record, Volume 3, Satan in His Original Glory, and that will be available on October the 7th via Apocalyptic Witchcraft Records. Make sure that you smash that pre-order button, and when you pre-order yourself some music and maybe some merchandise, let them know that it was old Jackson at Into the Necrosphere that sent you. And I think the more noise that we can create around this podcast's ability to generate some of those pre-orders for hard-working, well-deserving bands like the Antichrist Imperium, the more the chances that we get to have some of these world exclusives on the show. But I absolutely love that song. I love the whole record. I would say if you liked what you heard there, brace yourself, because the whole album is an absolute beast. I tell you what's also a beast. All of the podcasts hosted by my fellow horsemen of the podcasting apocalypse. And I speak, of course, of Brandon Legion and the excellent Horrible 666 podcast. Mike Hill, my friend of the band Tombs, and now also Scorpion Throne, who hosts the brilliant weekly Everything Went Black show. He is also a co-host alongside Mike Scandato of my favorite podcast of the week, Necromaniacs. And then we recently welcomed the mighty Carl Haikara, who for a long time into the Necrosphere fan, a guy I've spoken to on and off on social media for a while now. We've welcomed him to the ranks with his new podcast, Soul Knox. So if you check out all of those shows and you subscribe to all of them, you've pretty much got your whole week covered with quality content spanning everything from horror movies to music to everything in between. Also make sure that you give the subscribe button to this podcast a flying elbow off the top rope. If you listen to the show on Amazon, Stitcher, Spotify, or you watch it on YouTube, I don't care. If you watch it on YouTube, you might notice a little step up in the production quality this week, although I am going to apologize in advance for the potential technical gremlins. I finally managed to upgrade to a grown-up camera, so I'm actually filming this not on the mighty Logitech C920p, so trash webcam that I was using, or that I have been using for Into the Necrosphere from the very start of the show, but a Sony ZV-E10. And this morning I was led to profane distraction is probably the most charitable way to describe it, as I went through easily 200 test videos to try and get the lip syncing just right. But yeah, have I completely gotten it mastered? I don't know, but it'll get better. The good news is, now that the Sony is in my possession, it means I can take the show on the road, and we know what that means. A couple of very exciting guests who I will hopefully be able to speak to in person. I will share details of those as they happen. But I have said that this year the goal was to be able to record outside of Mean Street Studios, and who knows what that might bring. In the meantime, folks, make sure that you also follow me on social media. I'm on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And if you really love the show, then head over to the Teespring store and pick yourself out a T-shirt or a hoodie or whatever else comes to mind or catches your fancy. For now, though, let's take a pause for the cause. I hope you guys are going to enjoy the next 2 hours with me, 2 hours plus probably, depending on how chatty I get during the news, rants, and react segment. But I would like to welcome one of the members of up-and-coming Portuguese black metal battalion, Gairia. So you guys are just about to hit the road and come over to Europe and the UK, if I'm not mistaken, with no less than Gaul of Gaulsverd fame.
Yeah, it will be our biggest tour yet. Our first Nightliner tour with a fairly big package. And yeah, we're just very looking forward to do this for several reasons, because of course we will hit bigger venues. We will be amongst friends from the label, all the bands, besides from Winterfillet that just joined in for 10 shows, are Seasonamist friends and people we already know. So it'll be fun, professional, and of course a very fucking strong package for sure.
I know Russell from Winterfell, and you will get on with him famously. I've no doubt about that. The most important thing, though, is are you already a red wine drinker, or have you started to educate yourself on red wine in advance of meeting Gaul?
Well, we come from Portugal, so red wine is pretty much our thing.
I was about to say, you can barely call yourself Portuguese if you don't drink red wine.
Yeah, well, there are several rules about being Portuguese in terms of gastronomy and drinking wine, or at least cheap lager beer. But yeah, wine is our thing, and you're not probably Portuguese if you don't like wine or don't have a proper good taste on it. So yeah, I think we're prepared for the heavy nights ahead of us.
But I mean, one of the heaviest nights that you guys would have had was your show at Hellfest, which, I mean, you guys shared the stage with some seriously fucking heavy hitters. I was just looking at I wasn't at the festival, but I was just looking at the lineup that you were part of, and I mean, Moonspell, Marduk, Enslaved. I mean, that's like I said, that's some serious weight. What was the response like when you guys went on stage?
Oh, it was just fantastic. I think it's our well, for sure it will be. It is, and for sure it will remain as our biggest festival in a lot of years, because Hellfest this year was just monumental. 2 weekends filled with pretty much every band in this fucking world.
Yeah,
it was just monumental for us, and we played very early in the afternoon. I think we stepped into the temple stage around 1 p.m. and it was packed. Everybody was there already, and it's such a massive festival that they actually need to have 2 or 3 shows happening, otherwise they can't fit that many people. And I remember our fellow countrymen and people we absolutely love played their Moonspell 3 or 4 hours after us, and they were performing together with Created on the main stage, and they were on the temple stage as well, and both shows were packed. So there's no way you're not having a good response, at least with people joining you to watch your set at least. But yeah, we had an amazing time at Hellfest. We performed the first single from the new album for the first time ever, which was Risky, but of course we had to do it. You either risk it or just go home. And yeah, I think we had a very solid performance. People reacted very well to it, and people are already warmed up from so many days of festival, and everybody was just having a fantastic time. So we just went with the flow. Fucking amazing production team, amazing festival, amazing organization, and we were just amongst friends all day. It was just fantastic.
I was going to ask you about Moonspell, actually, because I mean, I've been a fan of theirs since way back. You know, when Under the Moonspell came out, I remember buying the EP and just being totally blown away by it. But they are kind of the elder statesmen of the Portuguese metal scene. What are they like to an up and coming band like you guys? You know, have they sort of taken you under their wing? Are they supportive? You very often, you know, you'll hear, without naming any names, you know, you'll hear folks that are in particular scenes, and you know, bands that are established kind of seem to want to sort of hold the young bucks, you know, to the side a little bit. I never got that impression from Fernando, especially. You know, he seems to really be into, you know, promoting younger bands and giving younger bands an opportunity. But yeah, what are they like towards you guys?
We are very, very good friends with them these days. Well, I think we just got along 2 years ago or something with the Limbo release, and they come to our shows. We go to their shows. We might do stuff together in the future. It's actually something we'll see if it happens. If it doesn't happen this year, it's because of clashing agendas, because they're busy and we are starting to get busy as well. But we definitely get along really well, and he is just an amazing scouter for new talent. He was the one that introduced us to Danny Filth, who came to one of our shows on the last UK tour. So he's not afraid of, well, just showing his appreciation for what we're doing, and not just us, several other bands in Portugal. He's a low profile man because he should. He shouldn't be everywhere all the time because he still has to protect his image. But yeah, we talk mostly every day. Actually, we are very good friends with all of them. Their new drummer Hugo is something that I personally already met, or I was already good friends with him for years before that. And they're just amazing people, great artists, and people that actually seeked out to meet us at Hellfest. They didn't watch our show, unfortunately, but we met because they went to meet us 1 or 2 hours later, and we had a good time. So yeah, it's just it's of course something you would not expect because they already lived this for so many years. And I don't imagine myself with a 30-year career, always seeking out for new artists, but it's what they do. They truly care, and they help us. They ask if we need anything. So it's just a good friendship that we have with them, and we respect them a lot, and they also respect us a lot. So yeah, it's a good companionship for sure.
I was about to say that is awesome to hear. I met Fernando, and this must be about 15, 16 years ago. Mm-hmm. I interviewed him for a webzine that I was writing for, and he was a classy dude. I will admit I'm not the biggest fan of some of the newer Moonspell material, but everything up to probably the second to last record that they put out, for me has been top notch. And I was kind of on board for all the changes they made to their sound as well. I was excited to hear that because I always felt like they were one of those bands that stuck very true to what they were feeling at the time, and that's the music that came out. But I think it speaks to the quality of a man when he is willing to give younger bands the rub and willing to give younger bands the opportunity. And he's not putting down the scene, because as I've said many times on the show, I have a real gripe with some of the old guard, running down black metal, running down bands that, or musicians that grew up, idolizing those guys and wanting to, in their own way, pay tribute to the kind of legacy that they left behind. And in my opinion, are doing extremely well doing so. But a question I had for you, as you play a festival like Hellfest, as you say, I mean, just about every fucking band on the face of the earth was there. Right. They really doubled down on that lineup this year. How do you feel about kind of the younger generation coming up in comparison to some of the older bands? Because there's this fear amongst a lot of people that there's once the bigger names like Metallica and Guns N' Roses and those bands retire, there's going to be no one to headline these big festivals anymore. Do you see hope amongst the younger generation? Yourselves included.
Well, I do, but again, there will come to a point where, as you said, these bands will have to retire, either because they are tired or because they lack the quality they had in the past. And we're watching that with Bon Jovi, or even James having problems on stage, just not feeling comfortable or not feeling like he's 20, because he's not. He's 50 plus or almost 60. So age happens, and there will be a time where these bands need to step back. And I hope we have a strong face to just step forward and we already have those names. Of course, we have Gojira, or even Ghost, or even, all of these bands that are stepping into a bit of the mainstream, and have a good capacity of headlining for 100,000 people. That's what these bands are doing, and I think we're in good hands. I don't feel like metal or heavy music is going to die just because all the big four will retire in 10 years time, for sure. So I think I don't see it with resentment. I don't wish them to stop now, because some of these bands I still want to see. It'll be sad for sure, but it's evolution, I guess. It's life, it's age, and it will be the first time we see the big names of a genre just stepping back, because that never happened with this genre. And I think it will be mostly at the same time, because we still have Iron Maiden, we still have Metallica, we still have Megadeth, we still have a lot of these big names and people that are reaching their 60s or even 70s, that I think will come to a point where they all retire in the same 5 or 6 years, because they simply have to. And I think we will be in good hands, because music industry is really putting out or stepping up the game a bit more with some of those names like Gojira or even Ghost.
I was just about to say, that's when Gairia will be waiting in the wings, ready to pounce, so ready to take the opportunity.
Yeah, well, we'll see. We work hard. We don't seek for bigger steps than the ones we can make. There's a lot of stuff in the underground or very underground areas we need to touch and feel. We don't reach for, because it's good to. I still think it's incredible for us to have Hellfest, Vacuum, Brutal Assault, all these massive festivals that we're just starting to do right now. It's just amazing for us to grow and to share on a very or a bigger set performance what we have to do. But I'm still sucker for shows where you have people 5 centimeters away from you and you can just fucking touch them and just feel the fucking energy. And it's something that I will never want to lose. So yeah, if it depends on us, if we have a say on that, I will keep those shows on the agenda for forever, because it's where we feel the fucking energy and the audience alive. Because it's good to play festivals, but you still have 10 meters away from the next person, and sometimes it's just it's harder to have that connection. We are a very body language moved performance band, and it's just how I prefer it. We love festivals, but if we can keep the smaller venues sometimes, even if it's just 1 or 2 dates per tour, I will be very glad to have them, because it's where we mostly feel more alive, I guess.
There is definitely a sense, like when it comes to this band, like that your star is on the ascent, right? I remember hearing Limbo for the first time and thinking to myself, this band is going to be fucking massive. Like if things keep going at the trajectory that they're going, if people hear this and they respond to it the way I have responded to it, then this band has the potential to be absolutely huge. And I feel like, listening to, so I've listened to Mirage probably 4 or 5 times since I've had the promo sent to me. One of the things that immediately strikes me about it is just how much more confident the band sounds. There's a real sort of palpable self-belief that comes screaming out of you, screaming out of the material at you as you're listening to it. Where did that come from? Did part of that come from the response to Limbo? Is it just the band sort of evolving and being more confident in the material that you're writing? Where, or am I completely wrong and I'm kind of reading too much into it?
Well, we never stopped working through the pandemic, and actually in 2 or 3 days, Limbo will turn 2 years, which is something that annoys me, because we haven't done anything with that album touring wise. We just started to do that, but we never stopped. We never stopped rehearsing. We never stopped creating content, creating videos, making live sessions, which is something that I just wanted to stop doing, and we will never do again. And because it's just exhausting not to have an audience for us.
I was just going to ask you, like when you were talking about liking that closeness of being near to the audience, I always thought that the stream you guys did was very cool. I like the aesthetic of it. I like the whole vibe of it. But as you were saying that, I was like, I wonder what that was like, having to play those songs live, but there's nobody there.
Yeah. And this is actually something we explore a bit in the Mirage concept, the act of having a performance where you put your soul and lungs out and nobody's fucking there, and you just realize in the end. But yeah, it's we work what we with what we got from this pandemic, and we surely never stopped. We created all the videos we wanted. If we were to tour, if we were to have a normal year in 2020, we would be releasing Limbo through a massive tour, and we wouldn't have the time to make all of the things that we did. So I'm kind of happy we had that time to just sit back, make the photos we wanted, the videos we wanted, the content we wanted, and to grow as a structured, a more structured band with our proper website, proper way of selling merchandise, all the things that it's important for us in order to survive, you know. And we had the time to do that for these 2 years. And we surely never stopped playing. Well, we played for seated people. We played whenever they could be standing up, and then they had to sit again for the next show. But we surely never stopped playing. We did 1 or 2 flying festivals in 2021. And as soon as we could, we just fucking toured, which was in April this year, and it was in the UK. So we never stopped growing as a band and growing as artists. And but I think the fury of not being able to present 3 years of work, which was Limbo, live, kind of bled into the creation of Mirage. Mirage is a very liberating, of course, very harmonizing record, but it's also very aggressive and very furious. And yeah, the first song we released, it's exactly about that, about suffering for a performance that nobody sees, and that results in ultimate death. But yeah, it's we didn't get inspiration from the pandemic at all. I thought it was a very I think we will still understand. We are still going to understand what these 2 years were, but I think we need 10 more years to kind of realize and study what actually happened and what's the impact on people's lives. And I don't think we will be able to discover that in just a few months. I think we'll need 10 years or something to realize how fucked up we are after this pandemic. But so yeah, we didn't take any inspirations from the current events. We just continued thinking, observing the people around us. And Mirage, it's exactly that. It's an album where we had the time to sit back, observe a few people we met through tours and even the recording process of the album, and we wrote about them. So all of these stories, all of these songs are about certain people that are real, people we met, people we know. Some of them we had the courage to talk to, and some of them we just let them be weird and just beautiful the way they act. And yeah, it's an album where we had that time to just sit back, having a beer or a glass of wine and just observing not the world, but the people inside this world, how they react, how they act, and how they are so unique in their own way. And we fictionized or imagined how they would fit into our concept.
You've spoken before about isolation being kind of a recurring theme on Mirage, and it is interesting when you were saying about not taking inspiration from the pandemic. I was kind of doing the calculations in my head, thinking, you know, this societal dichotomy that we're in right now, you know, of people having the tools to, on paper, become more connected, but those same tools making them more isolated and more lonely. I mean, that predates the pandemic by a significant amount. I feel like the pandemic might have accelerated some of it, because I think, you know, and I've witnessed it firsthand. I think some people have forgotten, you know, how to actually socialize. I think a lot of people have lost, you know, the ability to have a conversation, you know, with anybody who's not online. And then you have these things like, you know, them talking about the metaverse and all of this other horseshit. And a lot of that stuff, I think, as much as they try and push it as encouraging human connection, I think ultimately it's going to make people even more lonely, even more isolated. And then who knows what comes out of that, right? So, you know, what manner of psychosis that's going to breed. You know, sitting around in your house all day long with a fucking helmet on, pretending to be a cartoon character. But yeah, sorry, I'll pause there because I know you wanted to say something.
No, it's I think we create this world in order to be easy and not challenging enough, in my perspective, where you can, as you said, you can just sit back on your couch, order some chips with Uber Eats or order some pizza from elsewhere, and you can have your groceries delivered. So you don't need to do any fucking thing to get stuff these days. You just need to have some money in your account, and you just survive through life with no challenge. You don't need to see anybody. They can just drop the food at your doorstep and you just go there and pick it up. You don't need to walk to the fucking groceries anymore. You don't need to go to a bar. You don't need to get out. You don't need to go to shows because we had live streamings. And that, in my opinion, reshaped a bit of how in need we are to connect with each other, because yeah, it's great to have social media, but we all know what social media actually does to people. It's just a platform where people don't fucking inform themselves and just pop out all their ideas, all their nonsense without taking the time to read a book. It's something that if everybody read a book during the pandemic, it will be a way better world these days. But no, well, I don't think
they had Twitter arguments instead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had that time. The time was there for people to cultivate a bit themselves, and just in the end, I think we should have learned a bit more how to be alone, because I think being alone is coping with your thoughts and growing as a person while being alone is a pretty good skill. But I don't think being alone with those tools made us a more capable society, because we are always seeking for these external sources, being social media, being the TV, being whatever fucking conspiracy theory there might be, surfing on Reddit or whatever, and people just fucking freak out for anything. I remember the fucking toilet paper problem that we had.
Oh yeah.
It's just chaotic. Just fucking relax, take your time, and just dive into your own mind and learn from it. I think people shouldn't be that much afraid of just diving into their own thoughts with no fucking external sources from all the internet, and just learn a bit more about themselves. And I think we had the time to do that, but nobody, or mostly anybody, did that, because we were not prepared to be alone. And it just happened the way it did.
And I think so much of this modern convenience actually goes very much against the grain of our ancestral blueprint. So, you mentioned earlier about you can order your, junk food on Deliveroo. You don't have to, you don't even have to see the driver. You can get up, walk 3 feet, pick up your food, eat, and then, fatten yourselves up. But we, not to suggest that this is how it should still be, but there was a period of time when, the human race had to, hunt for every single thing. We had to wake up every single morning and, go out, find our food, kill it. And there was a degree of suffering required to be able to feed yourself. There was a degree of work required to feed yourself and to stay alive. When all of that is gone, it does feel to me increasingly like part of our purpose, whether we realize it or whether we're aware of it or not, part of our purpose seems to have died as well, which is why I see so many human beings behave in such an aimless fashion, lacking in so much self-awareness. And I also think why we're seeing so many people go off the rails with, mental illness of various kinds. Like, you mentioned social media. I've said this before. I had a conversation with Sotiris of Septic Flesh not too long ago. And I've mentioned this to a couple of other people. I feel like social media, especially things like TikTok, is a amplification channel for mental disorders. That's all it is. And people get a dopamine hit based on the most outlandish and absurd nonsense that they post on there. So that encourages them to do even more, and it encourages the next person to go that one step further. So it's driving us insane while going against the grain of this ancestral blueprint. And I don't think it's beneficial to society as much as, this podcast wouldn't exist without social media. In the grand scheme of things, if it were completely removed from society as one element, we would be far better off as a species.
Yeah, and I think that there's a saying in German, and I hope I don't fuck it up. It's Schadenfreude, which is the act of finding amusement in the disaster of others. So, and I think social media or channels like TikTok or something like that is exactly that. It's just you browsing on the internet with your thumb, watching ridiculousness, mocking it, finding the amusement of that, seeing all these weird things people do when they're alone, and they do it because they think entertainment it's just that. And yeah, because I don't think people see that as a good thing in their own heads. Most of the time, I think they're just browsing for somebody that has a way worse life than they do. So, and that's the sad part, because that's not helping, is it?
Well, yeah, you're absolutely correct, because what it does is it validates the poor decisions that you have made over the course of your own life.
Yeah.
That has brought you to the point that you are at. I heard somebody say this the other day. One of the reasons why you see so much resentment that's built up in the world is because many of the folks that you see in a very public forum acting out this resentment have never once stopped to look themselves in the mirror and question that, whether the decisions that they took to get themselves to that point were the right ones. And as to the point that you just made, about using social media as a means of validation, I think it's almost like subconsciously you're telling yourself, well, actually, it's okay. I'm absolved of personal responsibility, because look at that person and look at that person and look at that person. They're way worse than I am, so I'm fine.
Yeah, at least there's somebody out there with a worse life than I do.
Yeah,
and that's the fucking sad part of it, because yeah. And it's just sad to think of a society where you're always seeking for somebody that's unhealthier or fatter or more sad or something like that, just for you to feel a bit better about yourself, because, well, at least I'm not that fat, or at least I have a job, or at least I have this or I have that. But, well, should be exactly the opposite, right? And for us to get better, you won't get better at being, a better human being just by seeing people that you think are, poorer or sadder or fatter than you. You won't get better. You just, you'll get there at some point if you just continue to do that, because, that's not the validation or the acceptance that we need as human beings in order to grow, I think.
Yeah. And that's the thing. That's, striving for excellence at whatever you do. That is in part a conscious decision. It's not something that you're born with. We do have a laziness to us that can be activated by various external factors. You have to make the decision and be disciplined about being exceptional at everything that you do to the best of your ability. I love skateboarding, but the sport of skateboarding does not love me back. I'm never going to be at the X Games, no matter whether I practice skateboarding for 12 hours a day. Same with playing the drums. I could not in a fucking million years, do what your drummer does, no matter how long I practice. I practice the drums. But I do think that you need to you need to place a weight of responsibility on yourself to whatever it is that you're doing, to do that to the absolute best of your ability. And if you do that consistently, day in and day out, there is no fucking way on the face of the earth that you won't be successful. Because even if you just play it against the odds, the odds are that 90% of people are completely numb to everything in society and they don't bother even trying.
It's exactly that. It's all about consistency and having your goals well set in your mind and just fucking go for it. It doesn't need to be every day. It can be 1 or 2 hours a week, and then you increase it. And that just goes for everything: sports, music, writing, well, composing, whatever the fuck you want to just get better at painting. It's just setting a goal and go for it and learn through the process and accept no's as valid questions and not be frustrated about, well, just because the outside world doesn't accept you right now, it doesn't mean it won't, because yeah, we also struggled a bit in the beginning. We had a lot of comparisons, a lot of people not understanding what we were trying to say, but it just goes off every year when we put our new record and we play shows and we get better, well, better musicians, better on stage, because we fucking work hard for this. And yeah, you were telling about our drummer. Well, our drummer joined this band. He's with us for 4 or 5 years now, and he couldn't do a blast beat when he joined us. And in 1 or 2 months after being with us, he did a few festivals and he was doing blast beats. So he just went for it with everything he had. And I will forever respect him for that, because he fucking lives for this as much as I do. It's all about commitment. And if you want to do this, well, just go for it with no, well, things to set you back. Just erase everything that will set your mind back and say that, well, you can't do this or whatever, and just fucking do it. It's not as simple as that, of course, but it's always about having an open mind to failure and still having your goals well set. And if it's not today, it will be tomorrow for sure.
100%. One of the things that you guys are particularly excellent in, and actually, just before I get to that, let me just let this dog out. Any time that there's someone here, then immediately criminal activity, she has to spring into action. I'm just going to shut the door. I'll be back with you in 2 seconds.
No problem.
One of the things that you guys are extraordinary at, I picked this up on Limbo, and I think when I reviewed the record on the podcast, I may have mentioned this. The fidelity on that album is on a just phenomenal level. And I'm a snob when it comes to these things. So I like crustiness, and I like the rough stuff too. But I'm also a big hi-fi nerd. I've got I spend a obscene amount of money on sound system. So hearing Limbo on that was incredible. And I joked and said, I think someone in the band has to be an audiophile, because you're not going to record something like this if you don't understand how this works. So then I heard the new record, and I was like, Jesus Christ, this sounds even better. And I've not even heard the high-res version of it yet. So am I correct? Are there secret audiophiles in the band? Where does this come from? Because also I'll say, I mean, you guys are like the greatest living endorsement of Miguel, your sound man's work. I mean, the guy is just on a fucking different planet.
Yeah, he is absolutely amazing. He's about our age, so we get along very well. And we've been with him for 3 records thus far. The first EP we did ourselves, of course, as any band starting out with no money. But then we just went to work with him for the Unsettling Whispers album. We got back to Limbo, and Mirage was just a fucking odyssey, where we spent 2 weeks in his small bedroom or small studio just recording this album. It was a very exhausting physical and emotional experience for me, because he's just not an amazing sound engineer. He's an amazing producer, because he's also an amazing musician. So we take all of these crazy ideas to him, and yeah, we have all sorts of inside jokes, but he just makes that face, well, wow, that doesn't work, man, let's just do it this way, or just try this or try that. And we spend hours rewriting lead parts or rewriting the way we say a few words. And because he really gets us at this point, and he's our fake sixth member that every 2 years just steps in and works with us on a record, and his footprint is just there. We know it is because he truly helps us reshape a bit of our sound, and he suggests stuff. All the sample work, all the crazy sounds that you hear, it's mostly him doing on his own after we leave, and he just suggests that to us, and he just gets it at the first fucking revision. We don't have more than 1 or 2 revisions with him, with everything that he does for us, because he's just phenomenal at what he does. And most of all, as I said, he gets what we're trying to do with the band. So he really seeks for improving himself. It's not just because he did an amazing job with Limbo that he didn't try to do better. And better is of course irrelevant here, but he tried to be more organic with the sound, having more dynamics. So you just import the fucking audio files to a Reaper or DAW project, and you don't see this compressed file, which is something that he could get in the beginning of his career, but now you just have the dynamics working for you, and it's a more real, truthful album, Mirage. And it's not as loud, for example. It's a bit more silent, like 3 or 4 dBs going all techie here, but it really has the headroom for everything to just pop out and explode when you need to. And that's exactly that's exactly where I think most metal production these days just fail, because everything needs to be on the fucking top of the roof every time. And
I agree. And everything sounds incredibly compressed. And because it sounds compressed, it sometimes can sound just like a complete mess. As soon as you listen to it on anything decent, it just sounds like a kind of fucking big ball of snot being flicked at you, for lack of a better phrase. And I totally agree with you. Like what you guys have had on Limbo, and what's definitely evident on Mirage, is you've got this beautifully open soundstage, where all of the instruments are super clear, but then you also have this thud and this slam and this impact, which I would assume comes from Miguel's background of brutal death metal, right? Because is he in Analepsy?
No. Marco from Analepsy is actually his neighbor. So
okay. All right.
They are very, very good friends from their childhood. They studied together. They went to high school together. They have this whole fucking childhood story together. So they record Analepsy whenever they have time. And he started out with Analepsy, I think, and that was a big step in his career, because these days he does a lot of brutal death metal mixes, all of these slam bands and projects. But I'm actually very happy that he gets a few more black metal into his studio because of us. And I think we have two or three bands in the label right now at Season of Mist where they worked with him, and that makes me really happy because he's a fantastic producer, not only for extreme pounding drums and very techy stuff. He's just an amazing producer overall. I've seen him working with rock music or just more pop stuff, and he's just phenomenal. When you are a great musician and you have a perfect ear to work with music overall, you're just phenomenal at that, because then you just join all the technical parts of being in the studio, and you can apply that because you know exactly how it should sound in your head and how it should be in terms of dynamics. You're not just this guy that knows how to use gear. You're also a very good musician, very good producer. And I think he's just amazing when he does mixing and mastering for other bands, but when he has bands going to the studio and record with him, which is something that he doesn't do too often. But when he does, you can really see how different and how imploding those albums can be, because as I said, and I will stress that again, he's just a phenomenal producer and musician.
Well, what he also really nailed, that to me again separates the wheat from the chaff when it comes to producers. He nailed the vocal performance. The vocal performance is kind of throaty, but it's impactful. It's not overpowering everything, but it has that element where it's functioning as another instrument. But it's also clear enough that you can hear the vocals and you can hear the lyrics. That to me is something that's hugely commendable, and it's not something you find a lot of bands being able to get out of their producer or out of their recording efforts, especially black metal bands.
Yeah, we did it differently this time. We were used to this specific microphone and having the vocalist in a booth next to us so we could communicate and work together. But this time we just used a different microphone because we really wanted to hear the throat breaking at some point and the vocals shaping through the performance and not this flat, boring vocal performance that as much as you try, the microphone just doesn't get you there because it's flat. You can work with it or whatever. But this time, what you hear, it's mostly what that microphone that he used got it. So we reshaped the way we work in his studio this time around in order to have a more organic, more truthful, and more real sound of what we're actually doing. And that, bleeds into the dynamics and organics of this album. You can actually hear his throat breaking and his breath and the way he whispers and the way he says a few words. It's a completely different vocal performance. But mostly it regards to how different we approached vocals on this record.
How much, or does Miguel ever give you any kind of guidance in the studio? You often hear like producers will say, or bands will say, when I was working with this person, they told me to think about X, Y, Z when I was doing my vocals, or they told me to, I don't know, think about the fucking schoolyard bully when I was doing my drums. Does he get involved to that degree, or is it kind of just more, hearing nuances in the music that he'll point out? What is his level of involvement in the actual production effort?
Well, he doesn't get into the concept for sure. He truly doesn't care for that, and I don't think he should. We're working with him on a musical and production level that we love, but I also don't want him to get involved too much with the concept and how passionate these lyrics are for us or the texts, because I don't want him to be distracted by that. That's our job to feel that in the booth or feel when recording this song. So he doesn't say that because all the emotion is already there, because when we go to the studio, we are, I tend to think we are very prepared to do it, not to spend his precious time or our time. So we just go prepared physically, mentally, and with our instruments ready. Because as much as we love to be in the studio, I don't love to be in the studio for 2 weeks, and that's too much for me already. So if we can go there, have fun, have our souls ripped apart from our bodies because he tells some riffs just need to be played different or something like that. If we can get out of there as soon as possible, it's perfect for me, because I'm a live person. The most fun and the most interesting moments we have as a band are performing live, and we see the studio work as something that needs to be done. We try to keep it as much fun and productive as we can, but it's surely not something that reshapes how this band behaves after that. Because we do not write music in the studio. We write everything a few months before. We rehearse it, we test it, we re-record it if we need. And when we go to the studio, he already listened to the songs a few times, and everybody's just ready to just record. And again, if something is not working, we change it. But we don't spend time in studio conceptualizing what we're doing, because that work should be already done. At least it's how we work in this band.
And you want that spontaneity there, because I think if you spend too much time conceptualizing, then you sort of almost land in that trap of paralysis by analysis. And then it starts to all sound too calculated. And I think, if I'm reading you correctly, I think for a band like you guys, I think actually having that spontaneity and almost that slightly live kind of touch to it, suits what you're looking to achieve.
Yeah, it's easy to just go back to Mirage. Mirage was written in 1 week and a half, in January last year or something like that. It was just inspiration that's just fucking happened, and we couldn't leave the house without recording all these songs that were popping in our heads. And it was it. We didn't spend time to just sit back and thinking, it's a week with 9 songs already. Is this too much, or is this ready? We're just, I tend to think, if it was good enough for me to pick up the guitar and record it and still listen to it after a week and like it, and if I still feel that energy in these songs since the first moment I written them, it's just perfect for me. Because if I spend too much time writing a part of the song, and then I need to take some time off just because I'm not ready to finish it or something like that, I will never finish that song. It's the moment is gone, the sparkle is gone for me, and I'm ready to just write something else. So for us, everything is very spontaneous when creating. If it doesn't happen on that moment, just fucking forget it, and we'll try next time with a new idea. We don't refish for ideas, because it's a very impulsive way of working, but it's been working for us, and it's always been like that. If it happens on that exact moment, the whole song will happen on that same day.
Yeah.
If it doesn't, I can't go back to my notes or my files or my videos and just try to pick it up from there. It doesn't work like that for me. If it needs to happen on that exact moment, and that bleeds through the studio process, the performance, the live performances. We don't rehearse how we feel on stage. That's something that really annoys me, when you have everything so fucking programmed. 20% of our show, it's rehearsed, and something that we know sometimes we need to do this or that. Yeah, I'm sorry for that.
I was about to say, it's your neighbor revving his bike.
Yeah, it's we have a big street here, so every now and then
gotcha.
it happens. But yeah, it's like 80% of what we do live, it's organic. We don't rehearse where we go or how we do this or the passages. It's just fucking dull for me and boring to have everything that thought, because there needs to be a margin for error, and a big error in my head, in order for us to fuck up sometimes and grow from that. Otherwise, everything just becomes too safe.
I agree.
Not be bored.
Anodyne, I think, is the word. It feels very sterilized, and I'm with you there. I can't stand that. I know you've got a hard stop, so I'm going to wrap up with one last question. It's something that I picked up on I think it's an interview you actually did at Hellfest, and you were talking about the tour a short tour that the band did in China, really kind of being a turning point. And I think the quote you used was, we went in there as children, we came back as men. Tell me a little bit about that. Because that immediately piqued my interest.
Well, China was a whole new level of culture shock for us as metal artists. But what I truly mean by going there as a project and coming back as a band, or going there as childs and coming back as men, it's that we did our first European tour right before the China tour. We did this small European run with a band from our previous label, Jupiterian, and just selected, it was 10 days or something in Europe, very very underground, the beginning of everything. And then we went home for a week, for 1 day or something, and then we went to China for a whole month. So it's those things that you just realize when they happen, which is the clash of identities and personalities for the first time, because it's all fun and great with your colleagues of a band when you rehearse or when you have weekend shows. But when you have to be 2 months together in the same space, everybody's fucking annoyed because they can't fucking breathe without.
And you're also strangers in a strange land, a very strange land.
Yeah, and we had our first band fights, as everybody does when they start a tour, and it is like that. I truly believe that a band just becomes a band after the first or second tour. Until you get on a fucking van, a fucking smelly van with no sleep, having to drive 10 hours a day, not knowing if you're going to sleep the next day, going there's no fucking back line, and you still have to put on a show. You don't have a band until you have that. It's just a group of friends that play some music. And for us, it was a turning point because we dealt with that on 2 tours, and China was just fucking impressive. The way the Chinese metalheads, or those people that really like our sound, embrace everything Western culture is just phenomenal. We would get all of these different people that just wanted to get away from everything, and they just hang out with Europeans. It's just simple as that. They went because they saw we were from Europe, or because it was mostly that. And the whole tour, we started the tour, and the first show was very awkward for us, but we hold very good memories of that, because the same agency was finishing a tour with Elevate, and we played with them for the first show of our tour. And that was just great. The combination of the 2 bands was just awkward but great, because everybody in Elevate is very good people. But and then in the last 2 shows of the tour, it was this Iteration Festival, the same lineup that played in Shanghai and Beijing, and you would get all of these crazy metalheads doing corpse paint to each other in the halls of the venue, because they wanted to be as close as they could to the culture, which is a culture that's not theirs for sure. It's not mine, because we are in southern fucking Europe, but it's definitely not theirs. But all this fantasy, all this embracing as much as they could. And from the 6 bands performing on that festival, nobody used corpse paint. So, because it was us, Zuriach, Cult of Fire, so all of these very occult, hidden-faced bands, nobody was using corpse paint, but they saw it was a black metal festival, and people just wanted to be as close as they could to the atmosphere, and you would get people just freaking out, even though they didn't know you. They were just freaking out because they were getting closer to what they think black metal is for them. And who are you to just say to them to not paint their faces because there's no corpse paint band in the bill? Just go with it and take, if they want to hang around a bit and have a few beers and just ask you all these weird questions about black metal in a southern European country. For us, it was just phenomenal to be around that, because it's something that you don't get in Europe, because, again, black metal was born here, and we take our music for granted sometimes in this part of the world.
I agree, yeah.
But they don't, because they are not having black metal shows every day, every week, or every month, because they don't have that many metal culture going concert going culture in China. They don't. So that's why they embraced it as much as they could, and they buy merch and they hang around a bit, and they want to get to know you after the show, even though they don't ask you for your name. They just want to take a picture with a European guy. So it's great. It was a shock thing for us, because at the same time it's a very enclosed country, but they are really fucking eager to get to know everybody out there.
I used, so when I was writing for the webzine, I used to give it to or give many of the articles and the interviews that I was doing. I used to give to a Chinese magazine who would translate it, and it was a Chinese print magazine. They would publish it in there. And they've got firstly, they've got a big scene, which I don't think a lot of people realize. And secondly, the fans there are super, super passionate. Like, they're really into it. And as you say, whether there's bands with corpse paint or not, they get like seriously into they live and breathe for it. So, all right, my brother, I know you've got a hard stop. I so appreciate your time. I had a blast, and I hope I'm going to see you or I'm going to catch you in London when you guys play there. I'll make a plan and go there, because it'd be great to see you guys live, and I want to see Goldsverd as well. And I know my friend Andy Marshall in Seward is going to be there also. So,
thank you, and see you in London.
All right, my man. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. You just heard Mantle off of the forthcoming Gairia record Mirage, which will be dropped by Season of Mist Records on September the 22nd. Big thank you to my man from Gairia for a fascinating conversation. And also huge shout out to Katie Irizarry, one of the best, if not the best PR people in all of music, for getting this set up. I hugely appreciate it, and I hope you guys enjoyed that. I'll talk about the Gairia record nearer the time of its release, but I think I may have mentioned this on last week's show. But when I first spoke to Adam Nurgle-Darsky of Behemoth fame, I remember having a follow-up conversation with somebody, and I said, this dude's band is going to be absolutely massive, and I based that on the energy that I was getting from him. I got exactly the same energy from my friend from Gaerea. I have a suspicion that if this band continue on the trajectory they're on right now, between the aesthetics, the live show, the quality of the music that they're putting out, they are going to be absolutely huge. Hopefully they will grace us with another appearance on Into the Necrosphere at some point down the road. But in the meantime, let's talk now about some new music. And Divine Council is the name of the new record by Psycroptic. It was dropped on August the 5th via Prosthetic Records, and it is the band's first since the 2018 record As the Kingdom Drowns. They did put out an EP in the middle, but, in terms of full lengths, this is their first for a while, for obvious reasons. As I discussed with Jason Papiat of Psycroptic on last week's episode, they did have a little bit of enforced downtime thanks to some of the ridiculous lockdown rules in Australia, which, frankly, befell us all. But we'll get into more of that sort of talk in the News, Rants, and React segment. For now, let's talk about music. So like I said, they've been around since 1999, is originally hailing from Australia, and pretty much since the beginning of their career. One of the things that for me has always been, what has kind of kept me coming back is the fact that, like most great Australian bands, their style of music, in this case technical death metal, is instantly recognizable, but they're just always that 20-30 degrees off axis. So, it keeps the sound fresh, it keeps it creative, keeps it interesting. And from my perspective, they went on an absolutely incredible run of form around 2008 when they dropped Observant. They followed that up with the equally brilliant The Inherited Repression, and they then dropped their self-titled record, Psycroptic, back in 2015, which for me was really kind of the peak of their powers. As the Kingdom Drowns, I thought was a little bit of a step back. It felt to me like it was maybe a little too experimental, maybe getting away a bit too much from some of what had made the band great. But I am very pleased to report that Divine Council is straight back to the sound of those records that I mentioned before, both in terms of delivery, aggression, and then just kind of the whole record sort of oozes a band that seems to have approached this project like they have something to prove in the best possible way. And so the performances that you get from the likes of David Haley, who is the drummer for the band, also drummer for Werewolves, and for the mighty Amenta, is absolutely spot on. Jason Papiad delivers one of the most ferocious vocal performances, I think, of his whole career. And then Joe Haley on guitars and Todd Stern on bass. Todd, also, of course, of Tombs, delivers absolute masterclasses in their respective instruments. The record kicks off with the brutal Rend Asunder. I think I played that on last week's episode of the show. It then launches straight into A Fool's Errand, which is equally heavy, and it does not let up for the 38 minutes that it runs. The production is superb. As I said, the performances are excellent. And one thing that I also absolutely adore about this record is the fantastic cover art. And I do not know who it was that was responsible for it. What I would say is if they don't have a backlog of work already, then bands who are listening to this, or people that are rich enough to commission their own art, you want this guy on your radar, because this is absolutely stunning, in my opinion. Highly recommended, this record. I'm going to play one of my favorite tracks off of it for you right now. This is A Fragile Existence. A Fragile Existence by Psycroptic off Divine Council. That record is available right now on a Prosthetic Records. Make sure that you go and check it out. I will post the link to the band's Bandcamp in the description of the podcast. And as always, if you go there and you buy yourself some music, make sure that you let them know that it was old Jackson at Into the Necrosphere that sent you. I actually caught up with Dave Haley last week as well, so I'm hoping that he's going to be on the podcast at some point in the very near future too. But either way, stunning record, great band. And if you've not listened to that Jason Pepiat episode yet, then definitely make sure that you do. I got a ton of fantastic feedback off of that. Right, friends, it is time now for the easily triggered and the weaklings to run for cover under their non-gender specific matriarchal figures apron, because it is time for the weekly news, rants, and react segment. As ever, we start on Metal Storm, and by the way, every single week I go on to Metal Storm. I hope that you guys know that this is pretty much the only metal news site that I visit with any degree of seriousness. So hopefully that is enough of an endorsement to make it worth the fact that they're always on the podcast and that I pilfer through their content. But anyway, first headline reads: Demon Hunter premiere new track. I am actually, frankly, not particularly familiar with Demon Hunter. I know a lot of people like them. They are a Christian band as far as I know. And so it is no surprise that we find a new track called Heaven Don't Cry, which is another advanced single from their upcoming Exile full-length, which will be available on September the 9th via the group's own label, Weapons MFG. Let's give this a listen. Like I said, I don't really know this band. Generally speaking, Christian music's not really my vibe, but let's see if they can change my mind. That is a load of shit. I'm not gonna listen to it. No, I have an open mind, but that's a load of crap. I fucking hate metalcore. I don't like anything that sounds like that. So that has no place on the show. Let's move on. Slipknot, new single available for listening. It's called Yen, which I assume is them reminding themselves of the currency difference in Japan. But either way, it comes off the upcoming record, The End So Far. Who gives a shit, because Slipknot stinks, and I think that Yen is a terrible song, much like everything that they have released off that record. Psycroptic streaming new video clip online. We've spoken about that already. Fallujah, debut new single. Now, I was quite open about the fact that I was not a big fan of the previous Fallujah record, and then you all saw how I was blown away by the first single that they put out off of this new record. So I suspect that we're in for another treat. It says here, with barely a month remaining before the release of their highly anticipated fifth studio album, Imperium, Bay Area masters of atmospheric technical death metal Fallujah have unleashed their final single, Soulbreaker. Commenting on the song, founding guitarist Scott Carstairs says, prepare to have your mind melted by our latest track, Soulbreaker. This will be our third and final single from our monstrous record, Imperium, due out on the 9th of September. Soulbreaker is a psychedelic spiral into depravity, relentlessly beating you down with pissed-off riffs and ethereal walls of sonic bliss. Try not to break your neck listening to this one. Let's give it a spin.
Surrounded by the signs of a soul's destiny.
I dig it. And I'll tell you something that suddenly popped into my mind while I was listening to that song. This, to me, has vibes of Carnivores Forever by Decapitated, and as I've lamented on this particular segment of the podcast many times, I was so hoping that Decapitated would give us another one of those types of records with their new one. Unfortunately, their new record is virtually unlistenable in how absolutely abysmal it is. This, on the other hand, is very, very good. Like I said, that first single was excellent. I've actually, for some bizarre reason, I missed the second single, but this one is doing it for me. Let's give it another minute. I'm also usually very picky when it comes to clean vocals, but I think in a song like this, the way that they're using it there, I love it. I think they're doing a superb job. I love this song, and I am going to see if I can figure out a way to get one of the young men from Fallujah on the podcast, because that really is very, very cool. Okay, let's move on. Defacing God, the End of Times track unleashed, extreme melodic death metal act. Melodic death metal, it's not my bag. A Monomarth stream new video, hooray. We can only hope that it will be as thrilling as Get in the Ring. The song is called Find a Way or Make One. And like I said before, it is literally like a sexually frustrated 12-year-old who wrote most of these Amon Amarth songs. I mean, the lyrics are so bad. And yet, like a train wreck, I cannot go without at least glimpsing the music video. So let's give it a quick look. So for those that are listening to this, if you've not seen the video yet, it seems to be centered around a bunch of out-of-shape office workers. It's very 1993 because, frankly, most people don't even work in offices anymore. This past week was the first time in 3.5 years that I spent more than 2 days consecutively in an office. And that was only because I had a meeting or a presentation that required me to do so. But anyway, I don't quite know what the message is behind this. Is it find a way or make one? Is it, when that Excel spreadsheet stops working properly, beat the computer until it goes your way? I don't really know, but the song sucks. The lunch lady Doris woman doing her head banging at the start of the music video adds to the cheese, and I remain of the opinion that Amon Amarth are not really a band that you will ever catch me listening to for an extended period of time on purpose and without at least some degree of keeping my tongue planted in my cheek. Anyway, let us move on. Black Anvil, Castrum Dolores single premieres. I have said before, and I think I've played a couple of Black Anvil songs on the podcast too. Great band. I think the last time they put out a record was 2017, so it's been a hot minute, and it's high time that something new comes out. But long story short, new album was announced last week. It says here, after the recent new album announcement, Black Anvil now premiere the first single and lyric video, Castrum Dolores, the forthcoming outing Regenesis, will see the light on November the 4th, 2022, via Season of Mist. We all know what that means. I will hopefully be able to get somebody from the band on the podcast. Fun fact, I believe this is still the case, but Kevin Bacon's son is a member of the band. But like I said, I've been a big fan of these guys ever since I first heard them. Loved the previous record. Will my love stretch to Castrum Dolores? Let's find out. There's something about this band that kind of reminds me of vintage Enslaved, and then a nice hefty dose of US black metal tossed on top. But I think it works. I love it. I feel like this has, and maybe I need to go back and listen to that previous Black Anvil record before I make a bold proclamation like the one I'm about to, but I feel like this is a little harder edged than the last Black Anvil record, which sits very well with me. But everything there is working for me. I like the vocals, like the riffing. There's an intensity to the song that I think is cool. So again, Black Anvil makes its way onto the list of hotly anticipated albums for the remainder of 2022. And what a year Season of Mist is having. Obviously, we've spoken to and will be talking more in the future about the new Gairia record. There is Black Anvil. They put out Hell Militia. I am old and cannot off the top of my head remember everything else they've put out, but I do know they've put out a reasonable amount of good stuff this year. So, very much looking forward to that. And I verified it as the song was playing. Travis Bacon, the progeny of Kevin Bacon, is still in the band and has been since 2017. Algebra release, Kleptomaniac song. Now, I mean, again, we've been through the mill of terrible names for bands. And apparently the Algebra folk decided they'd listened to Into the Necrosphere, they heard me rant about it, and they thought, there must be a way to top... I mean, what did we all have? I can't even remember. I mean, my brain blocks out fucking bullshit like this. But again, can you imagine... I can't think of a scenario where I would be able to look myself in the mirror and feel proud of what I see if I had to ever stand on a stage and go, hey, everybody, we're Algebra! I mean, almost out of fucking sheer protest, I want to start a grindcore band called Trigonometry, or a grindcore band called fucking Biology. So bad. Let's listen to what it sounds like. So it says, yes, Swiss thrashers Algebra have released Kleptomaniac as the lead single of their forthcoming record, Chiroptera. I mean, Chiroptera would have been a better name for the band, which will be released on September the 19th via Unspeakable Axe Records. They are going to have to do something fucking extraordinary to make up for that dreadful, dreadful choice in branding. You know the worst thing about this is actually not bad at all. The music's pretty cool. It's quite aggressive. It's badass. I like that groove as we've just, which sort of kicked in just as I paused it. Vocals aren't bad, but fellas, drop the fucking name, and for sure, do not post these backyard barbecue photos of yourself anymore. If you want to be taken seriously, I said this last week, and it was on a different topic, but you guys will hopefully agree with what I'm saying here. If you want to be taken seriously, act like a serious person. Which is not to say take yourself too seriously, but you guys know what I mean. All right, let's give it another 45 seconds. I mean, they're not power trip, but that's a solid 6 out of 10 song. That. So like I said, why you would choose to call yourself that atrocious name, I don't know. I mean, who knows though? Algebra is a pretty terrifying subject for a lot of people at school, which is why we now have members of the progressive extreme left saying that we need to stop teaching math at school because it's racist. But again, I'm sure we'll touch on a few things like that towards the back end of the News Rants and React segment. In Flames confirm European touring plan. Part of why I despise this band so much, aside from the fact that they haven't really ever released a record that I think is greater than a 2 out of 10. And I don't give a shit what people say about Colony and, Horricle and all of those records. I think they all suck. But I remember seeing these guys play at the London Astoria, and I can't remember why, but I'd not paid for my ticket, so I was invited to see them play. I was actually right at the front because Devil Driver was opening, and this was still during the first Devil Driver record, which was very, very good, and especially live sounded superb. So In Flames comes on stage, they play their first song, Sucks. The way that the vocalist announced the band's arrival, "Hey, we're In Flames. We're like the best band in the world." I was like, that's me done, and I left and went home. I would literally rather sit on my sofa beating my meat than supporting trash like that. Benighted parted ways with guitarist. French brutal death metal band Benighted announced they have parted ways with guitarist Fabien Desgardens. Fabien joined the group in 2017. The band will from now on continue as a 4-piece. Elender, new song streaming. Austrian black metal band Elender have shared a Oliver Koenig directed video clip for Abschied, the track taken from their upcoming new album. and I'm not going to bother trying to pronounce this. Actually, no, I will, because I'm sure I'll destroy it. But anyway, Ellen Borgen Schellenkaft. Anyway, to be released by AOP Records on September 30th. Again, Ellen Borgen Schellenkaft. Let's hear if it's going to be any good. So talk about a music video that doesn't suit the music. If you are not watching this on YouTube or if you've not seen the video, it seems to be storyboarded as follows. Old woman thrashes about in the woods looking anguished, and then flashback to playing cards with an old man wearing a flat cap drinking espresso. I can only assume the true horror of this is that, given that she lives in Austria, she received her electricity bill for the quarter, and realizes now that the heating's going to have to be turned off, and playing cards is really the only way that she's going to be able to while away the time, because they don't have enough money to keep the TV going. The song isn't bad though. It's not going to win prizes for originality, but I don't mind it. Vocals sound cool, riffing is decent. Will it be on that highly, the most anticipated or hotly anticipated list? Not based on this. But then again, I'm debating here as to whether or not it is this video that's turning me off, or the actual song. All right, so now it's becoming a little bit more clear. So she when she's thrashing about in the woods, she's older, and when she's flashing back to them playing cards, she's younger. So that was the time when you could still afford electricity, and before Germany and Austria voted for Green Party ideals that are moronic. Then they decided net zero is our target, and we're going to spend 2 trillion euro. This, by the way, is fact. 2 trillion euro on wind and solar in a country where there is no fucking wind and where the sun doesn't shine enough to make solar real. And then in tandem with our 2 trillion investment, our CO2 emissions are actually going to go up. That's how much of a fucking stupid idea it is. On top of the fact that the people that live there now have to pay. I think I read an article saying if you live in Berlin, you received from some property management companies a notice saying that you need to brace yourself for an additional 3,800 euro in energy bills in 2023. Can you imagine saddling someone with that as a over 600 euro a month as an added bill? And like I said, that is the true horror of what's being depicted on this video. The song, as I said, is all right. I can take it or leave it, but nothing offensive. But again, black metal has just moved to a place where that sort of thing is pedestrian. I think is probably the best way to describe it. Now, I mentioned before about Season of Mist having a good year. They're also about to release the new Hierophant record. It has been, I think, 1 for 1 as far as singles were concerned on this that I liked and or disliked off of this record. So first single, wasn't so impressed with. Second single, much, much better. It says here, Hierophant are pleased to unveil the third new track, taken from the upcoming album Death Siege. The latter is set for worldwide release on August the 26th, 2022 via Season of Mist underground activists. Devil Incarnate, which is accompanied by a lyric video, is now streaming via the official Season of Mist YouTube channel. Devil Incarnate! Very old school, but I like it. You can now make that 2 wins, 1 loss in the old in Hierophant's column on Into the Necrosphere, but I like it. Maybe I am imagining this, but did they introduce their previous song with like introduce it by name as well, the way that they did there? I don't know. Maybe it's like a way to just build in the on-stage intro for the song. They don't even have to bother thinking about rehearsing anything. But yeah, like I said, I think it's cool. Maybe I'll be a little controversial here, though, and I will say, because I know of a couple of bands that have reached out to Season of Mist, and you guys know I've got all the love for Season of Mist in the world. But as good as Hierophant are, as enjoyable as that song is, it does... I do wonder what they saw, and maybe this is the best way to say this and say it pragmatically, because I genuinely mean it pragmatically. This is not, I'm not being a dick here. I wonder what they saw in a band like Hierophant that they did not see in a band like Trivax. That's just something that I think about, because those new Trivax songs, if that's what Cheyenne sent them, man, that is fucking top notch. I mean, that's Gairia level black metal, and I really feel like with the right backing, the right label, the right push, I think Trivax could be enormous as well. I mean, they've got an incredible story, especially Cheyenne. Cheyenne's a very charismatic frontman, great dude. He's a bro. But you know, lest anybody think that I'm saying these things because I'm a friend of his. No, we became friends because I like their music. But like I said again, I like that Hierophant song. But question is, what did they see in Hierophant that they did not see in Trivax? Because if it were me, I would have signed Trivax immediately. Also Born Ultra, Master's Call. You know, there's a couple of, quite a few unsigned bands that have yet to get their due as far as I'm concerned. Ken Mode to embark on North American tour to promote their upcoming new record, Null. Canadians Ken Mode confirm a set of headlining shows over North America. I said last week that I was going to reach out to Jesse Matthewson about coming back on the podcast, and he has said he's down with it, so we're definitely going to get him back on the show. I fucking love Ken Mode. I don't care if this podcast is predominantly about black metal. Ken Mode is as necro and badass as it gets. Tim Ripper Owens' new song online. I spoke about this last week, and I said I really like the idea that what's his face, Jamie Jasta, has been getting involved in, getting some of these dudes that maybe have fallen a little out of the spotlight, and giving them another chance. I don't like Dee Snider, but he probably made Dee Snider sound about as good as he could sound in the present day. I'm holding out for that Blackie Lawless revival. And what I'd heard of the preview clip they posted a couple of weeks ago, which will kind of be part of this Tim Ripper Owens record, I really liked. So it says here, Tim Ripper Owens has released an official music video for his new solo song called Embattled. It serves as a first preview of his upcoming EP, of which additional details will be disclosed in coming weeks. The clip was directed and edited by Leo Liberti. Let's hear what it sounds like.
They drag you in, taunted, haunted, demonized. You can't submit when the blame is intertwined. When now you're torn, spirit worn and shattered. You feel the scorn of days spent and battled. We stand as proof, bound together. We stand as proof, prove all of those embattled.
That's not bad. It's, I mean, not top 20, top 30, maybe even top 50 album of music of 2022 material, but it's not bad. And again, I've always felt that, and I understand why, but I've always felt that Tim Ripper Owens never quite got, or he got a bit of a raw deal when it came to his time in Judas Priest. I thought some of those records that he was on was not bad at all. And like I said, this sounds good. One thing that I question is wearing a pair of sunglasses with a cap. I've always thought it's a bit weird. The only people that do that are school security guards and FBI agents. A minor gripe, but one I thought I would point out. Incantation celebrate 30 years with special release. Incantation celebrate 30 years as one of the most influential and iconic death metal bands with the new Tricennial of Blasphemy collection, a triple LP set that catalogs rarities and unreleased tracks. This collection traces all eras of the band's infamous history, from a previously unavailable demo version of the band's classic Impending Diabolical Conquest featuring Will Raymer on vocals, to never before heard tracks like Pest Savagery. The whole effort was mastered by Dan Swano and features art by Wes Benscoter and Chris Moyen. I quite like Incantation. I've never been a fan of demo tracks. There's a reason why they are demos. And so whenever bands release these demo songs as this big treat, I always kind of go a rubbery one, because I've never once listened to a demo and gone, wow, that's incredible. I wish they had put that on the album instead of the actual song that was produced and better recorded and probably better played and had more attention given it. It's just, I don't know. I know some people talk. In fact, actually, I think Barney Greenway of Napalm Death once said to me that apparently the Paradise Lost demo, the very first one they put out, was supposed to be absolutely incredible, and he felt was better than both Lost Paradise and Gothic. Nearly wanted to give him the old backhand because he said bad things about Gothic. From my perspective, if a negative comment leaves your mouth about Gothic, then I'm going to do what Will Smith did to Chris Rock, and I'm going to yell out from the back, keep Paradise Lost Gothic out your fucking mouth, straight after I've given you a fucking slap. But that's just me. By the way, that imbecile, I saw, apologized to Chris Rock, but it was one of these Hollywood apologies where it's kind of like, yes, it's sort of your fault, but because I'm the bigger person and I'm going through a lot, I'll be the better man and I will apologize. But actually, you're a scumbag. It was kind of one of those, and it was really all about Will. I think Will Smith as a man deserves no respect from anyone. I think if you run up and cheap shot a comedian the way that he did, you are a absolute fucking jackass. As we're on the topic of Hollywood and we move on to the Democrats' Guide to Rock Music, I watched Prey over the weekend, the movie being called a masterpiece in the Predator franchise by such luminary publications as Rolling Stone. It is not a masterpiece, but good news for Predator fans, it's also not trash. It's actually a pretty good. I think it's a good installment. I would say, as far as the Predator rankings are concerned, clearly the first movie is the superior and an almost perfect movie, and one which I will give in full disclosure I've watched over 100 times, well over 100 times. The first time I saw the movie, I was 11 years old, and I rewound the video 3 times and watched it 4 times on the same day. Predator 2, the older I get, the more I love that movie. And, you know, the number of quotable lines in that flick is just absolutely legendary. I mean, King Willie being one of the greatest kind of bit character villains ever. Brilliant movie. Predators, I've got a soft spot for. I know a lot of people don't like it, but I think it's very cool. And then I would put Prey in the number 4 slot, which is not to say it's bad, but like I said, all 3 of those others are better. Then I would literally take every single other movie ever shot in the, you know, whether both pornography or non, and then I would say The Predator, because The Predator is the worst thing possibly ever filmed. It's a fucking insult to the legacy of Predator. And if I ever got into a position of supreme political authority, one of the first things that I would do, Shane Black and his entire family thrown in prison for that, or thrown in the dungeons for that absolute fucking train wreck piece of shit of a movie. But yeah, getting back to Prey, I thought that Amber Midthunder, the main actress, thought she was interesting. I did not like... There's 2 things about the movie I didn't like. Number 1, I hated the redesign of the Predator. I don't know why people are insistent on fucking around with perfection. The design from the first movie is exactly what the Predator should look like, and it should not change. It's like messing around with the design of the Xenomorph. Arguably, 2 of the most effective, terrifying, most brilliantly designed movie monsters ever. You just don't mess with that. And yet, for some bizarre reason, people are insistent on doing it. I mean, the Predator in this one just it looks dumb, looks lame. I like the fact that they scaled back his weaponry to kind of sort of go in line with the setting of the film. The setting is, I think, 1733 or something around that time. And like I said, I like the fact that they scaled back the weaponry, and there's clearly sort of a degree of evolution that took place from, the Predator's visit this time round to planet Earth to, 1986 or whenever the first movie came out. So that was cool, but the design, the face, that it looked fucking stupid. The other thing, and again, this is a pedantic point, but I'd be curious to hear everybody's opinion on this. If Alan Silvestri's score is not in the film, it's technically not a Predator movie. And I was thinking, as I was watching the movie, I was thinking to myself, like, that is actually a testament to just how incredible that score is. The fact that you almost expect it to be part of a Predator movie. I can't really think of any other franchise where I'd be that insistent on the soundtrack being exactly the same as it was in the first movie. And obviously, I know in the second movie they used it, but they added a few things. In Predators, there's kind of a remixed version of it, but that worked as well. They sort of brought it into the modern era. But I missed it on Prey. But I would suggest you check it out. It's a solid 7 out of 10 movie. Not going to blow anyone's hair back. By the way, one thing that I would like to say publicly: thank you to the men from Necromaniacs for ruining my enjoyment of Black Phone. They just did it on this week's episode of their show, and I really enjoyed it when I first saw it. And then the worst thing happened. I was listening to it, and they started pointing out all of the flaws in the movie, and I was like, Jesus, they actually have a fucking good point here. And normally I'm super critical about movies generally, no matter what genre it is, but especially horror. So I don't know if it just caught me on a good night, if I was just tired from work, maybe I had 1 or 2 wines too many. But either way, it was an enjoyable experience to see it. They have, however, pointed out some things that I will never be able to look past, and I doubt very much I'll be able to watch the movie through the same eyes again. But as I've said many times before, one of my favorite podcasts, one of the highlights every week. My podcasting indulgence generally is a combination of the 4 Horsemen of the Podcasting Apocalypse, obviously, Matt Walsh, who I think is, I mean, even though I don't agree with everything he says, I think is inadvertently one of the funniest people ever. I just find the whole podcast incredibly entertaining. And then, whatever's on Joe Rogan. And then the rest of the time I listen to music. All right, anyway, let's get on with it. So, first incendiary headline on Blabbermouth. Aaron Lewis performs new song, I Ain't Made in China, I'm American as It Gets. It says here, the song lyrics are, I ain't made in China, I'm American as it gets, I slept with my sister, I have no regrets. No, I'm only fucking around, of course. It says here, I Ain't Made in China apparently features such lyrics as, I ain't made in China from all the cheapest clothes, and I ain't one for driving an imported foreign car. I'm more like an American muscle from 1966. I ain't made in China. I'm American as it gets. I mean, Jesus, the fucking lyrics I came up with are almost better than that nonsense. Once again, apparently Aaron Lewis listened to the new Ted Nugent masterpiece, and he said to himself, I know I can top that. Again, it's an embarrassment to, conservative thinking to have a fucking imbecile like that representing you. But then again, there's many folks that are embarrassing on that side of the aisle, just as there are many people on the, actually very many people on the progressive left side of the aisle that are an embarrassment. Anywho, Kronos. Venom is putting finishing touches on new studio album. Venom frontman Conrad Kronos Lant has confirmed that the band is putting the finishing touches on a new studio album. Speaking at this weekend's Wacken Open Air Festival in Wacken, Germany, he said, as transcribed by Blabbermouth, we had a bit of a hassle because of the pandemic. We couldn't meet in the studio and all that sort of shit. So that knocked everything all to hell. If that hadn't happened, the album would be out by now. But we're just doing the fine-tuning, really, and working on individual shows for now. They have been around for a long, long time, have Venom. And have I really enjoyed their last couple of records? No. There was one song they put out years back, and I can't remember if it was Venom even, or Venom Incorporated. It was called From the Very Depths. That's very cool. But outside of that, for me, Venom is all about 1,000 Days in Sodom. And I have said to Evan of Quell fame that if he ever takes Quell live and they play in London, then I'm going to insist that he and I do a cover of 1,000 Days in Sodom together. Ex-Megadeth bassist David Ellefson says Exodus would have to be included in expanded Big Four. Why? This is still a fucking debate. I have no idea. I settled the debate several episodes ago when I said there is Testament and then there's everybody else. So forget about the Big Four. There's the Big One. It's fronted by Chuck Billy and by very talented guitarist but political ignoramus Alex Skolnick. But ignoramus though he may be, it doesn't matter because Testament is great. But yeah, I don't know why they still talk about this Big Four drivel. And besides that, Ellefson is he's out of the thrash game now and into the death metal game. Anthrax's Frank Bello says Charlie Benante and Zakk Wylde are the two right guys for Pantera gig. I agree with that. Maybe Zakk Wylde's playing can sometimes sound a little bit clinical, but then again, Dime's riffing is pretty technical, and I think a guy that could actually pull it off is Zakk. But like I said, again, why people are, tripping over their socks about, whether or not this is just a cash grab or, whatever other bleating drivel they want to come up with. I just think go to the show if you want to go to the show. If not, don't go. But once the conversation's been had, we don't need to continue hearing about it on every fucking interview that people are hosting. Face Without Fear featuring former Static X guitarist Trip Eisen. My Parasite music video. I'm not going to watch that, but Trip Eisen is a scumbag who I believe was caught sleeping with minors. Am I correct on that, actually? There was definitely something shady about that, which is why he was kicked out of the band. Lest I besmirch the man's good name, let me just double check that on my phone. Trip Eisen, criminal. I should put in Trip Eisen criminals. There we go. Convicted sex offender Trip Ison claims, I didn't target underage girls as I was unaware of the ages of them girls. Twice convicted pedophile Trip Ison will not let the verbal smackdown of Edsel Dope of Dope go unanswered. To recap, Trip Ison posted a statement taking credit for the Static X reunion and complaining he did not get enough songwriting credits on the album. This did not sit well with a heavily rumoured and pretty much confirmed new frontman Edsel Dope, who called Ison deplorable and that Wayne Static hated him and that Ison will always be known as the guy who targeted underage fangirls for sex. Grade A scumbag, and the formal verdict on Into the Necrosphere is fuck that stupid ass band. Watch Lamb of God play first concert of Summer 2022 European tour without guitarist Willie Adler. I mean, they are now fast approaching, I was about to say cover band status, but not really, because I can't exactly say that about them and not about Pantera in that case. But then again, I also do think, like I said before, I think the Pantera thing should be billed at least as some sort of tribute. Call it like vulgar display of power or something. But yeah, Lamb of God. That new Lamb of God song, and I suspect the entirety of the forthcoming album should actually be called Sham of God, because it is fucking trash from a band who put out so many great records, so many great songs. You know, was like, in my view, the benchmark for uncompromising metal that had managed to crack into the mainstream. But anyway, there's enough good stuff to get excited about that we shouldn't have to worry about all of this nonsense. Korn's Brian Head Welsh, the metal community is so inclusive and united. We are certainly far more united now than we were, but there's that woke vein that creeps through the music, though, that I want removed from the scene, or at the very least I want them to kind of do their own thing and really never turn up to any shows that I go to, and in an ideal world not like any bands that I like. I know I'm sounding like a fucking 14-year-old there, but anyways. Kiss's Paul Stanley once again slams American news channels for poisonous bickering and slanted distortions. Paul's not always right, but I do think he's got a point there. And as we come around the bend of the 45-minute mark on the old news rant and react segment, I think it's almost time for me to break out some news headlines. I'll do that in a second, but let's see if there's one more metal or music related headline to talk about here. Metallica Death Magnetic mixing engineer Andrew Sheps receives honorary doctorate. Question I have is that an honorary doctorate in how to make a record sound like complete and utter crap? Because that is exactly what Death Magnetic sounded like. I mean, I didn't like the record, period. The line, probably James's worst lyric he ever wrote, aside from my lifestyle determines my death style. The line, what don't kill you make you more strong. I mean, that is sub 50 IQ shit there. I can only assume it was during the time that he was still on the booze, because it is terrible. But yeah, the one of the worst things about Death Magnetic was the production, which was not as terrible as Saint Anger, but terrible all the same. All right, folks, as is tradition now, I'm going to regale you all with some crazy-ass news headlines that I've picked up over the course of the week. Here is one from CNN. Drink up. Cockroach milk is the protein drink you didn't know you've been missing. Gotta have me some of that cockroach milk. Like I said, they are doing everything they possibly can to lay the foundation for us to get all excited about this. And the sad reality of it is, you will find a significant number of morons that are going to fall for this drivel, because it's a bit like the whole kind of net zero green movement, right? We can all agree that climate change is a negative thing and that more should be done to protect the environment. But anybody who digs down into some of the initiatives being taken by governments to tackle the climate change problem will quickly realize that we don't have the technological infrastructure to be able to deal with it as effectively as we should be able to deal with it. There was an excellent interview with Peter Zion on the Trigonometry podcast. You know, I'm a big fan of Peter Zion. One of the things that he touched on was the fact that in order to build a base load of energy, you need batteries that can store electricity can store energy for a period of 4 months plus. And I think apparently the most that our batteries can store right now is something like 4 hours. And he makes the very critical point, which is illustrated by that comment that I made earlier about Germany's investment into wind and solar and the fact that their emissions have actually gone up as a result. But Zion makes a very good point that because we don't have the technology to be able to deal with or to be able to store the energy effectively, actually pursuing a net zero strategy or a net zero goal is bound to be even worse for the environment because of all the rare earth mining and the fucking lithium that's going to have to be mined and everything else. And he's absolutely correct. I mean, again, one of the things that Marco of Stellar Master Elite and I spoke about offline this weekend was he was talking to me about a movement, or I think it's been passed in government now, to prevent protesting. They called it riots, and they've kind of wrapped it up as, you know, means to control COVID-19 spread. I mean, even though that fucking horse is as dead as goddamn fried chicken, but it's an anti-protest measure essentially. Our domestic, or our foreign secretary, domestic secretary, who knows, Priti Patel, who's a member of the government in this country, she's trying to push exactly the same thing here. I get the impression that a lot of these governments realize that the shit's going to hit the fan in a big way come the end of the year when winter kicks in. The cost of energy is bound to go up again. We're also at the moment busy with, or it's harvest time for anybody who lives on a farm, and we're about to see the results of removing significant portions of the world's fertilizer supply from the agricultural supply chain. So there's, I think it's potash fertilizer out of might be China. Again, I speak under correction with this. Fertilizer from the Ukraine, fertilizer from Russia. That's been removed. So the farmers, because they already work to very tight margins, have not been able to fertilize their crops as much as they normally would, and so therefore the yields are going to be low. If the yields are lower and the supplies are down, but the demand is high, price is going to go up. And you combine that with kind of regular inflation. You combine that with the cost of fuel and energy going up. And I suspect we might actually see a situation where a lot of people are suddenly left pretty vulnerable come this winter. And that's going to lead to civil unrest, which, you know, and forgive me if I'm rambling here, but I think in a roundabout way, this is why they're trying to push these laws to stop people from rioting. They want to be able to quell it. And I think they're doing it because they realize just how severe the situation is going to get towards the end of the year. British police arrest decorated army veteran after social media post made someone feel anxious. This was something that I thought was absolutely egregious in a country where the police have now more or less said that they no longer bother pursuing burglaries because it's not worth their time. But a old man who retweeted reportedly a meme of a set of pride flags arranged in the shape of a swastika was arrested, cuffed, and Perp walked into the squad car because he had made somebody feel anxious. And I think if you watch the video, you can see the police officer telling him all about that. So this is the world we live in now. Someone can say, your comment has made me feel anxious, and so therefore you should be arrested. So, because I am technically an African immigrant, come to the UK 20 years ago, and therefore a minority, I would like to formally demand of the British police that they arrest everybody who uses the following phrases: on fleek, on point, living my best life, that is goals, that is life, or a combination thereof, and any use of a city name followed by the word baby. Example, Barcelona, baby, Las Vegas, baby. You can toss all those people in the slammer because not only are they causing me a great deal of anxiety, but they're also causing me a great deal of despair for the future of the human race. And because of the precedent that has now been set, I expect my demands to be adhered to, or it's going to be offensive and possibly also racist. I'll tell you what else they can do while they're at it. I'm going to need to try and find the song. But the other day, I was in the gym, and my headphone batteries died on me, so I was exposed to the ear rape of whatever trash they play on the gym radio. And I have to say, I think because I listen to so much music and podcasts and stuff, I never really pay any attention to what's on television. I don't even know what's popular. Once in a while, I'll watch something on YouTube and somebody will make a joke about a song or about a meme or whatever the case may be, and maybe I'll kind of get a little more up to date with popular culture. But I didn't realize that British hip hop had now sunk to the low, where the following lyrics are seen are what makes you popular. This is a song by, and I know this not because I know the song, but because Google on my Now Playing app showed me what it was. The song is called Ladbroke Grove. It's by somebody named A.J. Tracy. And amongst the gems that he offers up here, or the literary, philosophical, and thought-provoking gems, said bubble, vibes and dat, cruise like a four-wheel drive and dat, tech time, everything's live and dat, Becca AJT's on the mic and dat. I said bubble, vibes and dat. So I would like anybody that misuses the English language in that way also tossed in prison. And then just to add a few years to the sentence, I think that's technically cultural appropriation, because hip-hop did not originate in the UK. It originated in North America. Frankly, I think a lot of the modern rappers should also be tossed in jail in America, but that's a separate discussion I can influence in the UK right now, like I said, based on the legal precedent that is there. But they took something great that was delivered by fantastic performers like Public Enemy, Cypress Hill, The Psycho Realm, Gravediggers, and they turned it into that absolute trash. So, like I said, I expect those people to be tossed in the slammer. And if you add that cultural appropriation charge, it should add at least a few years, which means hopefully in my lifetime, I never have to hear that fucking horse shit made ever again. I seriously cannot understand how someone would willingly listen to that crap. And I know there's some metal lyrics that to the outside world may seem a little bit, a little bit strange. But anyway, I don't think not even entrails ripped from a virgin's cunt by Cannibal Corpse has sunk to the low of that nonsense. Another article here for you guys. Vice. There is inarguably a downturn occurring, but what do we call it? Are we in a recession? It depends on what side of the culture war you're on. So we're now arguing cultural semantics when it comes to just basic economic definitions. Vice, of course, probably the worst of the worst as far as imbecile, woke reporting is concerned. The only publication that beats them is Vox. The infamous MS-13 are nice boys who ride their bikes and work after-school jobs. The Land Report, meet Farmer Bill, America's leading farmland owner, Bill Gates. I submit wholly to our soon-to-be overlord and food distributor. I just hope that he allows me from time to time to still eat some meat, because I know he seems to be against that. What else does it say? That is interesting. I think that's pretty much it. Like I said, I had a fucking crazy-ass week at work. And it took me a solid at least 200 test shots to get this cock-sucking lip sync sorted out today. And I still don't think I've got it quite nailed. But if you've borne with me up until the very end of the News Rant segment, I thank you. As I move on to wrap up the podcast. And when I say wrap up the podcast, of course, I mean wrap up this episode, because I will be back next week. Guest currently to be confirmed. I have a few folks in the pipeline, but as I've said before, I am so goddamn paranoid about announcing anybody until it has actually happened. Those Conan and Christian interviews that I foolishly spoke about out loud are a good example of that. 2 false starts on both so far, But they're both back in the diary. So when they happen, I will announce it on social media. But I've got a bunch of other folks in the pipeline as well. And then I am at some point going to do another audio special as well, because guess what? In my living room right now, the mighty Griffin Pantheons are standing proudly, and they absolutely blew my mind. I'm more than happy to admit I got a bit of a lump in my throat when I heard them for the first time. But I will talk about that on a Friday special. For now, I am going to finish up for this week. Thank you so much to Gaerea thank you so much to Season of Mist and Katie for making that episode and that interview happen. Make sure that you check out that Antichrist Imperium pre-order link. If you like that song, get out there, hit that button, let Apocalyptic Witchcraft Records know that you heard the song on Into the Necrosphere. And then, of course, check out the Psycroptic record, Divine Council. And if you haven't checked out the episode with Jason yet, I posted that last week. You for sure need to make an effort and do so. In the meantime, my friends, stay safe, stay healthy. I will see all of you bad motherfuckers again next week.
Några veckors till liv och en